Pokemon's whole premise is to train a team of your favorite creatures and challenge this world's boss battles, the gym leaders. But the truth is, you can catch a single Pokemon and sweep a gym leader's entire team immediately, even without gaining any XP. Just one fresh catch versus the strongest trainers in the region. To see how much we can break FireRed and LeafGreen's gym leaders, I've ranked every successful matchup into 4 tiers. The top tier is reserved for Pokemon that can sweep with the absolute worst stats possible. The lowest tier is for those that are consistent but fail with bad RNG. We are looking for the most broken, untrained counters to the gym leaders in Kanto. So let's start with the first one, Brock. Without any leveling, it's impossible to beat him with one Pokemon. However, I wanted to see what was possible with the least amount of effort in leveling. There are 2 mandatory trainers to battle between Peloton and Pewter City. The first rival fight and a bug catcher in Viridian Forest. A starter benefits from both fights, but a freshly caught Pokemon only gets experience from the bug catcher. So I immediately looked for a starterless option, with Mankey being the only decent one. After the bug catcher, it reaches level 6 and learns low kick, but this barely gets it past Brock's Geodude. It doesn't come close to Squirtle, which easily sweeps Brock at level 7 with Bubble Spam, even with less favorable IVs and natures. The AI is quite stupid in these games, but if Brock hits 3 of his strongest attacks or gets 1 critical hit in, it's over for Squirtle. For example, Geodude hitting 1 tackle and Onix connecting 2 rock tombs. Squirtle will most likely not survive this. Even though it's unlikely to happen, I can't call this a guaranteed solo sweep. Next up are Misty and Surge. They're both beaten by the same Pokemon, Dugtrio. It is not as safe as you'd think though. It knows Dig, which is not as overpowered as it is in the original games, but still strong enough to deal a big chunk of damage. Misty Staryu gets one-shot, but Starmie can survive 1 hit and counterattack with Water Pulse. A critical hit cannot one-shot a Dugtrio with decent special defense and HP. Since Water Pulse can also inflict confusion, I equipped Dugtrio with a Person Berry I found on Route 4. Starmie can use Recover during Dig's underground turn, so I teach Dugtrio the secret power TM to consistently 2-hit KO Starmie. Surge is even easier. Spam Dig on his 3 Pokemon to cleanly one-shot all of them. Can you miss because of double team? Yes, but did you know that Aerial Ace deals more damage than Raichu's Quick Attack? It's time to put the 2 gym leaders in a tier. Misty is super easy to defeat, but only works 100% of the time if Dugtrio has enough special bulk. That matchup goes into the 2nd tier. I also tested a newly caught Oddish and Bellsprout at level 16, but they get severely out-damaged by Starmie. And Surge is pretty clear. Even a newly caught Geodude at level 10 or a Sandshrew at level 17 can sweep his team with Dig. The level 22 Diglett, however, has to rely on Magnitude. Then we take a long journey to not Celadon City, but Fuchsia City. I need stronger untrained Pokemon than the ones available before the Pokéflute. None of them can sweep Erika consistently. What stands out in Erika's fight is that Stun Spore is her biggest weapon to force RNG. However, in Fuchsia City, there is a move tutor that teaches Substitute, which can block status effects and protect from critical hits. The Cherry Berry is also an option, but only for Pokemon that can one-shot Victory Bell and finish Vileplume quickly. These new encounters stood out versus Erika, a level 29 Pharaoh from Route 18. It has a very clean solo sweep with Aerial Ace and Substitute. I avoid using Fly on a lower level Pharaoh because the 95% accuracy would put it in the lowest tier. The real standout, Jinx, which can be traded with a level 30 Poliwhirl. It always has a mild nature and fixed IVs. At level 25, it learns Ice Punch, which one-shots all of Erika's Pokemon with ease. At the top floor of the Pokemon Tower, a level 25 Hunter can be caught. With Psychic and Substitute, it makes easy work of Erika's team. Then there are 2 Safari Zone catches, a level 32 Venomoth and a level 27 Execute. I evolve the latter and teach both of them Psychic. Venomoth falls just short of one-shotting Erika's Pokemon, but they deal so little damage that the sub most likely doesn't even break. Executor can outspeed and one-shot Erika's entire team if it has high IVs and a beneficial nature. It's time to rank them. Jinx, Pharaoh, and Venomoth can all sweep at their weakest. Executor needs almost max speed and Hunter needs very high IVs in special defense and HP for its substitute to not break after one attack. Koga luckily has his team from Red and Blue. I made a similar video about the first games and his yellow team was impossible to solo sweep with Pokemon straight out of the wild. A familiar face returns to solo sweep him, but first I want to show off how other Pokemon handle him. In the Safari Zone, you can easily find a Nidorino or Nidorina in the low 30s and evolve them immediately with a Moonstone. They do rely on a few TM moves, but I'll explain more in a bit. Koga opens the fight with a Coughing and has another one in the back. They tend to spam Smokescreen, but that's no issue with Substitute. 2 or 3 serves is enough to take them out. Ideally, you want Koga to heal his first Coughing with a Hyper Potion before KOing, because his next Pokemon is a special tank. Muk can only damage with Sludge and buff itself with Acid Armor and Minimize. The latter is super annoying, but luckily the Nidos can learn Shockwave with the TM you get from Surge. It will never miss and deals between 6 to 10% damage to Muk. Koga will unintentionally PP stall me using those Hyper Potions. However, I have a way to conserve PP on Shockwave. I use Surf on Muk until it uses Minimize. Then I forced it out with Roar. Wheezing and Coughing are absolutely not dangerous behind a substitute, and they give another chance to remove a Hyper Potion from the fight. I repeat this until only Muk is left, and then start using Shockwave when Surf's PP has run out. The only danger in this fight is self-destruct on his Coughings, but the AI is programmed to use that move as a last resort. Since his Pokemon are so slow, you'll almost never see it. So Nidoking and Nidoqueen turn out to be excellent counters to Koga. I also tested a more gimmicky option, the level 25 Hunter from earlier. It's a great Pokemon for Koga, due to its typing. The 2 Coughing are no issue with Psychic, but Koga's Wheezing and Muk give it a bit more trouble with their damage output and the use of Minimize. However, Hunter knows a move I never use because of its drawback. I used Curse to bypass any accuracy checks and Hunter can just sit back behind its substitute to safely heal with leftovers and rest. Koga can't possibly KO Hunter with this set, but only if it has high stats. Now I can choose to face either Blaine or Sabrina, but I'm going to postpone the latter. The Sevi Islands have some interesting catches that work very well against her. Also, defeating Blaine first gives my Pokemon a batch boost in special attack and special defense. Surf can be used in the overworld now, so that gives access to Articuno, Zapdos, and many water types. But only a few can solo sweep Blaine without gaining XP. The biggest issue with his Pokemon is that they're actually not that slow, and some of their moves have annoying secondary effects, like flinching, burn, and paralysis. So, slow Pokemon like Slowbro or Snorlax are not ideal. The only water types I found that can solo sweep Blaine are Golduck with the Damp ability and Dewgong. Both are found at level 40 in Seafoam Islands. They are strong enough to one-shot Growlithe and Ponyta with Surf, but need a bit more power to face Rapidash and Arcanine. Rain Dance helps a lot with that, and Mystic Water or Leftovers turns the matchup even more in their favor. Golduck can outspeed Rapidash with max IVs and a speed increasing nature, but Dewgong is a bit slower, so I set up a substitute beforehand to prevent any flinches or paralysis. Rapidash is a clean one-shot under Rain, and Arcanine always takes 2 turns to KO with Surf. With some luck, both of them can win with average IVs, but it's only a truly guaranteed win if they have high IVs. Another Pokemon that can solo sweep is Articuno, and with quite an unusual moveset. With Water Pulse, Rain Dance, and Mystic Water, it deals quite a lot of damage while weakening Blaine's Fire Blasts. Sadly, it's not perfect. Rain Dance requires a turn to setup, risking a burn or dangerous crit, and Water Pulse doesn't one-shot Arcanine. All the accumulated damage will KO Articuno by the end. I felt it was worth mentioning because it's an Ice type sweeping a Mono Fire team. Then the best Solo Sweeper isn't even a super effective type. Zapdos cleanly sweeps Blaine's team with guaranteed Thunder hits, thanks to Rain Dance. Even with the lowest stats possible, it's guaranteed to win. After defeating Blaine, we now have access to nearly every encounter in the game. As I mentioned earlier, the Sevi Islands is home to 2 interesting solo sweepers for Sabrina, but I want to get through the legendary birds first. They're all amazing against her, even at their weakest. With 0 IVs and everything, they can perform a clean solo sweep. Articuno, after 1 agility boost and an Ice Beam boosted by Nevermelt Ice, cannot lose. Zapdos has 2 possible routes. It can either use Rain Dance to fire off accurate thunders or spam Drill Peck. A level 40 Pharaoh from Mount Ember can also pull off the ladder, but it needs the highest attack possible with a Sharp Beak equipped. Moltres simply spams Flamethrower against everything. If its nature lowers speed or special attack, that can easily be fixed with Agility or Sunny Day. Remember, for the legendary birds, this is all at level 50 with 0 IVs. They're basically cheat codes with the correct moves. Let's see which normal Pokemon can actually pull off a guaranteed solo sweep. The first one is a level 38 Raticate from Cinnabar Mansion with the Guts ability. It's actually surprisingly easy to sweep Sabrina with this thing. I teach it Facade and Substitute, enter the fight pre-poisoned, and one-shot everything. However, Alakazam is capable of one-shotting Raticate with a high damage roll. To prevent that, I set up a substitute on Venomoth. There is still 1 Pokemon left from the Sevi Islands, a level 40 Hypno. It already knows Psychic, so just teaching it Shadow Ball from the game corner makes it ready to solo sweep, but only if it has max speed. Kadabra and Mr. Mime are slower and both go down to Shadow Ball. Venomoth is one-shot by Psychic, and then we have Alakazam. It will move first, deal a bit of damage, and go down to 1 Shadow Ball. Sabrina actually has way more solo sweep options than I expected. Now I can finally show off my favorite sweep of the whole video. Giovanni has a bunch of newly caught Pokemon that can solo sweep him, and water types are not always the best ones. Articuno completely trivializes this fight. Just spam Ice Beam and Giovanni's entire team drops without touching Articuno. Straight top tier. A level 35 Gyarados from Seafoam Islands can sweep with a Rain and Mystic Water boosted Surf. It needs a turn to set up, and Substitute is really helpful for that, but it's not 100% consistent. While Giovanni's Rhyhorn will prioritize using Scary Face most of the time, it can still decide to use an attack multiple times in a row. However, if you get past it, Gyarados will cleanly sweep with the boosted Surf. Golduck from Seafoam Islands at level 40 can use the exact same strategy, but if it has max special attack, a Surf boosted by Mystic Water will one-shot Giovanni's whole team. It can even survive a critical hit from Dugtrio's Earthquake, which is the only Pokemon capable of outspeeding Golduck. Just because Golduck can sweep Giovanni with raw power, instead of using the substitute strategy, I can place it higher than Gyarados. Then I have 2 grass types, Tangela and Executor, which also make use of substitute, but they have just enough bulk to prevent it from breaking with max IVs there from the Sevi Islands and end up being pretty great. Thanks to Chlorophyll, Sunny Day makes them outspeed everything. Tangela boosts its special attack with Growth and simply sweeps with Solar Beam. Executor doesn't have a boosting move, but it has enough raw power to KO most Pokemon with 2 attacks, which is Giga Drain and Psychic in its case. Both of them are technically safer options than Gyarados, but less efficient than Golduck. And now for my favorite matchup. The level 25 Hunter we've already seen 2 times. It can solo sweep using only Giga Drain and Psychic. Its immunities and resistances actually do most of the work. Giovanni primarily uses moves that can't even touch Hunter. Ductrio can't hit Hunter with anything, and both Nidos can only attack with Poison Sting. The only real threat is Rock Blast from Rhyhorn, but they get one-shot by Hunter's Giga Drain, as long as it has very high stats. I really love that this is possible. Well, look at that. Almost every single gym leader can be defeated by just one newly caught Pokemon. Brock will always be a special case as the first gym leader, but there's at least one almost guaranteed solution by defeating the mandatory trainers. Misty would actually be impossible if the over-leveled Ductrio didn't exist, and even then, if it has low special bulk, it can fail. A few solo sweeps were actually surprising to me, like Hunter versus Giovanni. Substitute also shows how broken that move is against the AI. They really like to apply status effects or lower your stats before dealing damage. These are definitely not all possible solo sweeps with Pokemon straight out of the wild. So I would like to hear which ones didn't appear, or the ones that surprised you. If you want me to make this into a series, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. As always, have a good one.